Hey guys, and welcome to what is going to be our last day of October's Number Corner. Today is October 28th, and it's day 20 for us. So we're going to do a couple things that require us to look back on all the things that we've learned this month, and we'll, of course, look at our calendar grid and do a couple other things, and that'll sum up our Number Corner for October. But you may see me again in November. All right, so let's start off by looking at our calendar. So you made some predictions about what you think is happening with the pattern, okay? And so yesterday we had $1. So then today, what do you think it's going to look like? Yeah, it's a full mat. And so if I were to fill this in on the chart that we've been filling in all month, I would say that that is what? Fraction. Right, it's just one whole, just like yesterday. So I can put 100 over 100 because it's 100 tiny squares in the whole thing. I can just put 1 over 1 because it's one whole, right? And that's easy. We can write that as a decimal very easily. So how does this then relate to money? Yeah, it's like $1. It's also worth 100 cents. And let me write that the right way, which is worth 100 cents. Okay. So before we continue to look at what the markers are going to look like for the rest of the month, let's look back at a worksheet that you guys started working on the last time. A couple days ago you started. And let's talk about some of the answers you got. And actually, before I do that, I do want to point out that I made a mistake on this page. And I thought I corrected it here, but apparently I did not. But the mistake is that's 40 cents. So hopefully you guys caught that as I was talking about it and you changed it. And if not, just know that Miss Tramell made a mistake and she realized it later on, so she had to correct it. So they are all alike because they all show 4 tenths. Okay, which then means we have to agree because 4 tenths is equivalent to 2 fifths. Okay, so I just wanted to correct that real quick. Okay, so let's talk about the worksheet. Which fraction is greater, 1/4 or 1/10? Great, 1/4 is bigger. Now, if you had trouble, hopefully you thought about this in terms of money. 1/4 is 25 cents because it's 1/4 of $1. 1/10 is a dime. That's 10 cents. So 25 cents is worth more than 10 cents, right? Circle the and I guess I should have circled it and then it said use the symbol. So what about 8 tenths and 3/4? Right, 8 tenths is greater. That's 80 cents. And 3/4 is 75 cents. Okay, how about for number 3, what'd you get? Use labeled sketches, words, or numbers to add the 2 fractions below. You can use the base 10 mat or the 2x5 array to help if you like. So we know that 1/2 is 50 cents. So I'm just going to outline 50 cents here. That's 1/2. And now I need to add a fifth to it. And if I want to add or want to talk about a half here, then I could do this. The easiest way for me to show a half on this one. Now, well, what's a fifth worth? Yeah, was it 20 cents? Remember we had the pentagon and we had that separated into fifths? So that would be an extra, and I can represent that using a different color. That would be an extra 2/10. We can do that over here as well. So then what's our answer? Good. 7/10. Awesome job. All right. So now let's look at the remaining calendar markers for this month. Here we go. The 29th. Great. Here's the 29th. Was that shocking? We have $1. We have a whole mat. Should have a whole pentagon filled in. What do you think about the 30th? A whole rectangle or area filled in. Awesome. Let's add this to our observation chart. Okay, so here it is. How is it like money? Right, it's like, well, right. Okay, so we can put it's like $1 because all 5 sections are shaded in. Which is equivalent to having one whole dollar. Right, and then we can fill in our fraction, which is 1/1, same, 5/5, same, but we can write it like this as a decimal. Now how about the 30th, which is here? Same thing. So this would be 10/10. Just the whole thing, one whole thing shaded in. Okay. Write my decimal like this. And it's related to money because of the same thing. It's like having 10 dimes, which is worth 100 cents or $1. Or $1. Right, so now, what are some observations, some final observations you guys can make about what has happened with our calendar grid this month? Final observations. Yeah, fractions. Fractions everywhere. Fraction, 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 fraction. Right, and also decimals, because we could write a fraction as a decimal. Anybody else? Well, I'm wondering, did you see, and maybe you did because we just said you can write a fraction as a decimal, but that just shows that they can be equal. So we talked about equivalent names of fractions, so there are different ways to write a fraction. So like 1/2 is 5/10 or 50/100. And that helps you understand that there's also an equivalent way to write that fraction as a decimal. Very good. So then I wonder, what's going to be on our 31st marker? What's going to be there? What could be here to continue the pattern? Money, mat, shape. Money, mat, shape, shape. Money, mat, shape, shape. Money, mat, shape. Money, mat, shape, shape. Money, mat, shape, shape. Money, mat, shape, shape. Money, yeah, probably money. So, let's see what it is. It is money, and it looks like, let's zoom on into this bad boy. It looks like $1 and a dime. So if I were to add that to our observation chart, I'd have $1.10, which is, how would I write that as a fraction? It will be 1 whole and 10/100, or, because that's 10 cents, 1 whole and 1/10, because it's 1 dime out of the 10 dimes that we needed. So here's what it would look like as a decimal. We are going to do more work with fractions and decimals this year. So hopefully you feel a little bit more confident with them. And if not, we'll continue to work on them throughout the school year. Okay? We have one last thing to do today. And that's going to be to look at our number line. And here it is. I just want to briefly go over with you some of the things that I'm hoping you noticed about what's happening on this number line that we've created. We have multiples of, we have multiples of 2 in blue, 3 are in green, 6 have the red box, 4 have the black circle, and then 8 has the orange circle, okay? So we've marked many, many multiples, okay? Even numbers, if you notice, there are a lot more even numbers than there are odd numbers. A lot more even numbers than there are odd numbers. You definitely can tell which number is a multiple by the different symbols on each. So the red box we know is a multiple of 6. That's why I just went over that. And some numbers are multiples of all of them. 2, 3, 6, 4, and 8. But there are also some numbers that are multiples of anything, like 17 and, well, at least not for this number line. 25 is not a multiple on this number line. 29, 35. But 25 is a multiple of 5. So numbers that don't have any multiples, they have a special name. Round numbers. Okay. All the multiples of 8 on the circle here are also multiples of 2 and 4. And I wonder why that is. Do you guys know? Remember doubling? 4 is 2 doubled, and 8 is 4 doubled. So all of the multiples of 2 are going to be a multiple of 4. All the multiples of 4, well, I'm saying that backward. All the multiples of 8 are also multiples of 4 and multiples of 2, okay? So 2 is a multiple of 2, but it's not also going to be a multiple of 4 because 2 is smaller than 4. So every other 2, every couple of 2s, then you'll see a multiple of 4, and then every couple of 2s you'll see then multiples of 8. So here's a multiple of 2, and then we get to 8, and then we have a multiple of 8. You have to count by 2 so many times to get there. All right, the last thing that we're going to talk about is the fact that we played Put It on the Line. We played it together, and I said if you guys had time, you could play it as a class. And so some of the mathematical ideas that we were using when we played that game is rounding, estimating. We reviewed a lot of things like bigger numbers, reading bigger numbers, writing bigger numbers. And so as the year, in November, we're going to continue to add multiples to our number line, and we're going to learn the game. But I do want you to know that just because we're not doing, if we don't start rounding in November, doesn't mean that rounding is not a good skill to use when you're working through problems to figure out if an answer is reasonable or not. Great job this October. Hopefully you guys did really well on your number corner assessment. And I will see you again in November. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.